All right, let's see here. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Trying a new headset. See how this works. See if I like it any better than not having a headset. But welcome back. Very nice Monday morning, almost Monday afternoon. It's Mr. G checking in with his students, getting ready to do a read aloud, read more from Spy Ski School. And, just here to hang out with you guys. It's about all we can do, really. Virtual hangouts seem to be the next big thing that are going on right now. Actually waiting to also link up with all the other teachers at Laura Haviland, actually, for a virtual meeting. We're still working on getting that scheduled, so that'll be nice to see them, just as much as it's been nice to interact with you guys, whether it's been through dojo messages or through my teacher Facebook page or here on YouTube. Also, it's been nice, and I've been hearing a lot of positive things that you guys have been appreciating me doing this, and that's been nice to hear. Even had a couple of messages that some students have actually been eagerly waiting for me to do the read aloud. That's a message that I got last Friday. That made me feel real good that this is being appreciated, especially since when I was trying to work this out a few weeks ago, it was kind of a spur of the moment, like, what could I do that could be, easy for families to be able to hook into and easy for me to figure out how to do, because this is all new for me, doing streaming and doing live videos. It's been a steep learning curve, and I think that's going to help with how we at Haviland, each of us individually as teachers and as a program, decide what this distance learning is going to look like. We still don't have a firmed up plan yet. That is actually our goal this week, to get that figured out. And as soon as we have one finalized, we will let you families know. We know that all of you have certain comfort levels of, accessing the technology and kids being motivated to do any activity that's been assigned to them. And it's new for me to just see all the different resources that are available to do this. So it's just, it's going to be a process to figure out what's going to work for everybody. And patience, I think, both for myself and patience for me giving it to all of you families, is going to be key for this to work smoothly. There's going to be bumps in the road because this is all new to all of us, not just you families, but us teachers as well. This is something new, and it's definitely out of our wheelhouse, but hopefully we can land in a happy medium where all of us feel comfortable with what we're doing, and that you guys, the students, are getting the most out of this very unique education opportunity, given that we can't see each other face to face. So your patience is appreciated. As soon as I have everything firmed up, I will let you guys know as soon as possible. But I guess I'll just start off saying, how did your guys' weekend go? Did you guys watch anything interesting? Whether it was on TV, catch a movie, streaming. Mr. G's been doing a lot of reading. And making my way through some of those books that I got piled on my bookshelf behind me. It's about one of the few things I've been doing outside of researching educational stuff. But hopefully you guys are keeping yourselves occupied, keeping yourselves entertained as best you can. Especially since when it seems like everything in the news is just, doom and gloom stuff. It's hard to watch. I kind of, for me personally, I've kind of stuck with, at most 15 minutes. I'll watch the news for 15 minutes just to, kind of get the lay of the land at the beginning of the day of where the world is at. And honestly, I've just stopped watching all the coverage on the coronavirus because it's just like, yeah, more people are getting tested, more people are finding out that they're sick, and more people are dying. And that's just, it's sad, but me personally, I can't focus on that. So, why don't we pick up with something that I know you guys have been enjoying? We'll pick up with Spy Ski School. We kind of left it at a very good spot. We progressed with the gang's first day at ski school, and Ben had to deal with a complication of his best friend Mike all of a sudden showing up out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, Jessica Shang wanted to pay attention to Mike and not Ben. And Ben's mission is to get close to Jessica so he can then, through her, find out what her father, Leo Shang, is up to with his Operation Golden Fist of whatever that plan is as a threat to U.S. national security. And he can't do that if Jessica is all of a sudden going to link up with Mike. We also discovered that we finally found an activity that Erica Hale has not been able to master the first time through. She is the worst skier in the bunch, and not only that, she wiped out so spectacularly that even their instructor Woodchuck went, "Man, I haven't seen a wipeout like that before. That was pretty amazing." So outside of that, Erica's embarrassed because the whole group is snickering about her. Because, the great and Miss Perfect Ice Queen Erica Hale finally comes across an activity that she is not good at right off the bat, and nor has she been able to figure it out and master it right away. She has come up with the plan. Much to Ben's chagrin, he is not happy about this plan that him and Mike will still meet up with Jessica, as Jessica requested that the two of them meet her for hot chocolate at the hotel she's staying at. But Erica said that she's going to tag along, and she's going to try to win Mike's attention and thus be able to remove Mike out of the equation. Ben, obviously still having very strong feelings for Erica, is not liking that she's going to try to put the moves on his best mate, his best friend, because he believes that Mike just has to be the smooth-talking teenager that he is, and that he's going to win over Erica's heart. And Ben is feeling jealous about that. He doesn't like this plan, and there's really no way that he can argue against it. It's just going to happen because the rest of the team is like, well, this is our best shot to get Mike out of the picture because it's your fault that he's here because he knew you were coming here. So there's also been some doubts if Erica could pull it off because everyone pointed out that, you're not very friendly. You don't make friends very easy, but Erica has proven that she deserves the Academy Award for Best Actress because she can slip into any persona and be convincing at it, especially with her persona of an airhead ditz who basically wiped out so spectacularly that even the ski instructor was going, wow, that was pretty amazing. So we're going to pick up with Chapter 9, titled The Distraction. The rest of our ski lesson was actually fun and productive. As Woodchuck had told us, skiing had a great deal to do with our attitude, and since we were all determined to get better, most of us progressed well. For Chip and Jawa, this wasn't an issue since they already knew how to ski. They only had to pretend to get better. Zoe, Jessica, and I mastered skiing down a beginner run slowly without falling, as well as getting on and off the ski lift without gravely injuring ourselves. Erica, however, to her chagrin, did not improve quite as much. But she managed to stay upright most of the time. Meanwhile, Warren had somehow managed to actually get worse during the day. He started with at least an idea of how to ski, but by the end of class, he was spending most of his time splayed out on the snow. As enjoyable as the lesson was, though, enough to ski all the way back down just yet. The idea of grabbing hot chocolate with two beautiful girls at a nice warm restaurant seemed like it should be a dream come true. Instead, it was closer to a nightmare. For starters, Jessica was extremely unhappy when Erica tagged along. Erica had suspected this would be the case, so she didn't even ask if she could join us. Instead, she blatantly invited herself. She did it when we were back in the ski rental, when we were allowed to store our equipment for the night. I was revealing in the feel of having normal shoes on my feet again rather than ski boots, while Jessica was giddily pressing me to text Mike and see how long it would be until he could join us. And then Erica walked up in her full Sasha mode and asked, "What are you two doing now?" Jessica gave me a subtle signal not to tell Erica, but I pretended not to notice. "Getting a hot chocolate," I said, nice and friendly. "Ooh, that sounds delicious," Erica groaned. "Count me in." Then she followed us to the Arabella, blindly ignoring Jessica's many hints that she did not want Erica around. The three of us headed to the Gruben restaurant to have hot chocolate and await Mike's arrival. The Schnitzengruben was supposed to be the less fancy but more cozy of the two restaurants at the Arabella. Unfortunately, it didn't feel cozy there at all. This was partly because the restaurant was empty and reserved entirely for the Shangs. And being there felt eerie, like there'd been a zombie apocalypse or something. It was oppressively quiet. There were way too many vacant chairs around us, and a single waitress who had been kept on staff solely to serve the Shangs and seemed ill at ease. She hovered around us like a vulture, unsure what was expected of her. The presence of Jessica's bodyguards made things worse. Now that we were back off the mountain, we had reunited with the three enormous Chinese men who had been protecting Jessica that morning. They were all posted at the doors of the tavern, making sure no random person wandered in or out. Meanwhile, Dane Bramage sat at the next table over, glaring at us. It seemed to me that he was doing his best to make sure Erica and I felt uncomfortable, hoping we would leave, and it was working. On me, his steady gaze was so unsettling, I was having trouble stomaching my hot chocolate. I wondered if he was simply protecting Jessica by trying to keep everyone away from her, or if he had actually grown more suspicious of me that day. Either way, he certainly wasn't happy to have me around. I was also worried about Mike's impending arrival. There were so many ways he could blow my cover, calling me by my last name, for example, or mentioning that there were strange things going on at my school, or deciding to once again joke that I was training to be a spy. Erica was unfazed by this, however, believing that she could handle Mike and lure him away from Jessica before he screwed anything up. The biggest cause of tension, however, was Erica herself. Jessica was obviously angry at her for crashing our party. Thus, instead of being her normal cheerful self, Jessica was now dour and gloomy, taking every opportunity to subtly let Erica know that she wasn't wanted there, which forced Erica to act staggeringly oblivious. Mmm, Erica exclaimed, sipping her hot chocolate and rubbing her stomach. "That is yummy, in my tummy. It was so nice of you to invite me along." "I didn't," Jessica said coldly. Erica giggled in response to this. like it had been a joke. You're so funny. Is everyone in China as funny as you? Jessica glanced toward Dane. It seemed to me that she was considering the manners of simply having her bodyguard toss Erica out of the restaurant. But before this could happen, there was a commotion by one of the doors. I could hear Mike trying to talk his way past the bodyguard station. I swear, I've been invited. A girl who is staying here asked me to come over after skiing. Her name is Jessica. Jessica's foul mood was immediately lifted. She lit up, thrilled that Mike had finally shown up. It's okay, Zhao, she yelled to the bodyguard. He's with me. Let him in. The bodyguard grudgingly stepped aside. Mike slipped through the door, red-faced from the cold. Hey, he called to us, then paused to look around the empty restaurant, confused. Is this place even open? Just for us, Jessica replied proudly. Really, Mike seemed like he was about to ask why this was the case, but then he spotted Erica was with us. Her presence immediately derailed his train of thought. Attracted to her, he flashed his standard wolfish grin, which Jessica didn't appreciate, and said, I didn't realize there were going to be 4 of us. Hi, I'm Mike, Ben's best friend. I'm Sasha, said Erica. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mike said suavely. Just as Erica had predicted, he didn't recognize her. Even so, I was thankful Erica was using an alias. Mike might not have known exactly what Erica Hale looked like, but he certainly knew her name, as I had told him Erica was my girlfriend. To make things worse, I had kept the lie going for months, until finally claiming we had broken up. Erica had found out all about it, of course, which was embarrassing enough, but having Mike put everything together would have been deadly. Erica went right back to work flirting with him, wanting to get him away from Jessica as quickly as possible. To this end, I had unwillingly briefed her on a few things that would quit Mike's interests, like his favorite movies, video games, and hobbies, and how he liked girls who were really good at sports, although Erica had insisted that she could probably get by with the basics with flirtation 101, like simply batting her eyes. She did this now, and Mike was drawn toward her like a moth to a porch light. I'm in ski school with Jessica and Ben, she said, flipping her hair for good measure. Cool, Mike said. Where are you from? Baltimore, Erica replied. Mike's smile grew. Hey, Ben and I are from outside of D.C. We're not too far from you. I know, Erica purred. Not even an hour apart. I could already see Mike doing the math in his head. Jessica was attractive, but she was from China. Erica was really attractive and lived much closer, which gave her an edge. Jessica seemed to be doing the math as well. She quickly tried to shift things in her favor. Did you like something to drink? She asked. Or to eat? The waitress rushed to Mike's side, relieved to finally have something to do. A hot chocolate, perhaps? She asked. Or a sandwich? Or pasta? Or a burger? You can have anything you want, Jessica offered. My father's paying. That's not necessary, Mike said graciously. I can cover myself. No, I insist, Jessica said. Trust me, Daddy can afford it. She waved a hand to the empty restaurant. Mike shifted his attention from Erica to Jessica, intrigued. Does your father own this hotel? No, Jessica said, but he's renting the whole place out for the week. He's renting the entire hotel? Mike echoed. Just for your family? Yes, Jessica replied proudly. Mike whistled, then warily scrutinized the bodyguards around the room. What exactly does your father do? He asked. I shot a glance at Erica, intrigued. It had never occurred to me that Mike might actually help us interrogate Jessica about her father. He's in business, Jessica said coyly. My dad is in business too, Mike said, but he's not renting out entire hotels in Vale. What's your dad do? Own a companies or something? Yeah, Erica chimed in. How does he afford this whole place? At the next table, Dame Bramridge stiffened, not liking where this conversation was going. Jessica didn't seem to notice. She was too happy to have Mike's attention again. He does own a few companies in China. Like what? Mike asked. I don't know, Jessica admitted. It sounded like the truth. Given that she was trying to impress Mike, it seemed she would have told him if she had known. Yeah, don't own know what companies your father owns? Erica taunted. Jessica shrugged. He doesn't like to talk about work much. Whenever I ask him about it, he's as quiet as a louse. Mike looked at me, confused by this. I think you mean quiet as a mouse, I told Jessica. That's the expression? Jessica asked. Really? Because lice are really quiet. They don't even have vocal cords, while mice are all squeaky. Realizing we'd gotten off track, Erica tried to switch things back to Leo Shang. If you don't know what companies your father owns, then maybe he does own this hotel. Is that why you're here? Jessica shook her head. I think Daddy would have told me if he owned this place, and he swore he wasn't going to do any business on this vacation. He works so much, I almost never get to see him. We're just here to go skiing. Only you and your dad? Mike asked. Or is there other family here too? No, it's just me and Daddy, Jessica said. I'm the only child, and my mother doesn't like the cold. She went to our island instead. Your family has a whole island? I asked, stunned. It was off topic, but I couldn't help myself. Where? Jessica actually had to think about this for a while before answering. Fiji, maybe? Somewhere warm. So where's your dad now, then? Erica asked, trying to get the conversation back to Leo once again. He went helicopter skiing today, Jessica replied. No way, Mike gasped. That's supposed to be awesome. I know, Jessica agreed. Daddy says that if I get good enough over the next few days, he'll take me. Maybe he could take me and a friend. She looked at Mike meaningfully. I could now see Mike mentally recalculating. An exceptionally rich, attractive girl for China could take him helicopter skiing was slightly better than an attractive girl from Baltimore. Erica realized she was losing her edge, so she decided to shift the conversation, even if it meant getting off of the subject of Leo Shang. So, Mike, Ben says you're really a really good skier. I'm okay, Mike said, in the exact same fake humble way he had in the gondola that morning. Where'd you ski today? Erica asked, shifting closer to Mike. She did it subtly, though, so that it didn't appear that she was throwing herself at him. In the back bowls, Mike replied. There are tons of untracked snow. It was pretty epic back there. Speaking of epic, Jessica interjected, not liking the attention Erica was getting. Sasha had an epic wipeout today. Oh, that's not a big deal, Mike said. Everyone wipes out when they are first skiing. Not like this, Jessica pressed. This was a mega wipeout. She took out everyone on an entire run. Mike shrugged. I've had worse. Once on a massive powder day, I biffed a jump and ended up buried in the snow halfway to my knees. That's not so bad, Erica said. Well, I landed head first, Mike explained. Then he broke into laughter. Erica laughed too. Oh, you're hilarious, she said. I like you. Jessica joined in the laughter as well, not wanting to be left out, though it didn't sound very natural. I really I really have wiped out plenty, Mike told Erica reassuringly. It's part of skiing. It's good that you didn't let it discourage you. Thanks, Erica said, looking truly flattered by this compliment. I guess I thought it was going to be more like water skiing. I'm pretty good at that. Really? Mike asked, suddenly growing more intrigued. Do you go a lot? All the time, Erica said. My folks have a vacation house on Chesapeake Bay. It's not that far from DC. We have a couple ski boats out there, and some jet skis, too. This is all a lie. Erica was actually relying on my intel now to win Mike over. I told her that he loved water skiing. It worked like a charm, quickly ramping up his interest in her. No kidding. Mike was once again recalculating. An attractive girl with a vacation house and jet skis close to where he lived was better than an extremely wealthy rich girl who lived halfway around the world from him. Erica scooted a little closer to Mike. I usually don't have any problems with sports. I can ride a horse and throw a baseball and sink a layup and all that stuff. So I guess I figured it'd be easy to take up skiing, but it's not. I'll get the hang of it though. I'm sure you will, Mike said. I could see that he was starting to fall for Erica. All the references she had just made to being good at sports had done the trick. Know what I'm really good at? Erica asked. Ice skating. Does anyone want to go ice skating? I'd love to, Mike said. Great. Erica sprang to her feet and grabbed her coat. I thought we were all going to have hot chocolate together, Jessica insisted. She seemed stunned that Mike had been won over so quickly. They made a really good hot chocolate here with whipped cream and little chocolate shavings on top. Mike shrugged. I'm not that into chocolate, and it's kind of weird being all by ourselves in here. Why don't you guys come with us? He gave me a slight wink and then nodded toward Jessica, indicating that I should make a move with her. You know what'd be more fun? Jessica asked. We could all go up to my suite. There's a private jacuzzi right out on the balcony up there. At the mention of this, Dane stiffened, not liking the idea of us visiting the suite at all. Mike glanced his way, seeming to sense this. I don't have a bathing suit, he said. You could borrow one of my dad's, Jessica said. Mike made a face disturbed by the thought of wearing a strange man's clothes. Thanks, he said, but I think we're going to stay. Erica had already slipped her coat on. See you guys tomorrow, she told us, and then she and Mike hurried out the door. I watched them go, trying not to be overwhelmed with jealousy. There were only 3 days until Operation Golden Fist. I had a job to do, and as Erica had pointed out, I couldn't let emotion get in the way of it. I returned my attention to Jessica, expecting her to be feeling rejected and vulnerable, like Zoe had predicted. She was not. Instead, she was really, really angry. You should probably go, she told me, and then stormed out of the restaurant. Wait, I yelled after her, leaping off the couch. Dane snapped out of his seat, trying to block me, but I slipped past him, chased after Jessica. I thought we were going to use your jacuzzi. I don't feel like it anymore. Jessica didn't even look back at me as she spoke. She continued into the hallway where the hotel elevators were. Dane lumbered down the hall behind me. He was so big, I didn't even have to look back at him. I could feel his presence. At the far end of the hall, beyond Jessica, was the hotel lobby. To my surprise, Leo Shang was coming through the doors. He was back from the helicopter skiing, though the windows behind him, I could see his caravan of car tanks parked in the roundabout. Leo's office was surrounded by a cluster of bodyguards. All of them appeared unhappy to see me in the hotel, although none of them seemed as unhappy as Leo Shang himself. Everything around me was indicating that I should leave, but I felt I still had to make one last attempt to get back into Jessica's good graces. It wasn't going to be easy, though. She was so angry she hadn't even noticed her father yet. I don't understand, I told her. Did I do something wrong? You invited her, Jessica spat. No, I didn't. She invited herself, which she wouldn't have done if you hadn't told her what we were doing. You might as well have given her an engraved invitation. She stabbed the button for the elevator. Jessica, Leo Shang said sternly. Jessica froze and she turned to him, startled that he was there, then looked back at me. Her anger shifted into something closer to worry. Hi, Daddy, she said. How was your skiing? Leo pointed toward me and demanded, Who is this? As he came closer to us, I got a better view of him. He looked like the Chinese version of Alexander Hale. He was handsome, suave, wearing a designer ski jacket over an expensive button-down suit. His attitude was extremely different than Alexander's, though. Alexander's had always been friendly and charming, while Leo Shang appeared forbidding and mean. He stared at me with disdain, like I was a rat that had somehow gotten into his hotel, rather than a fellow human being. Although every fiber of my being wanted me to shrink away from Leo, I knew that probably wasn't the best choice. Instead, it seemed that I should behave exactly like Mike would in my situation. Mike would be confident and brave, like he had every right to be there. I'm Ben Kuhlman, I said, extending my hand toward Leo. I'm a friend of Jessica's from ski school. Leo Shang made no attempt to shake my hand. Instead, he recoiled from it in disgust, as though I'd just blown my nose on it. Then he looked back at Jessica. I thought I made myself clear. You are to not have any visitors at the hotel. I didn't invite him into the hotel, Jessica said. I invited him into the restaurant. Followed me into the hotel just now. Don't split hairs with me, Leo said through gritted teeth. The restaurant is part of this hotel, and you know it. I can't go out anywhere, and I can't have anyone visit me here, Jessica asked pertinently. That's not fair. This is my vacation, too. Your daughter only invited me over for hot chocolate, I said charmingly as I could. That's not a crime, is it? Leo ignored me and shifted his attention to Dane. This is unacceptable. The big blond man actually cowered under Leo's gaze. I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. And with that, he clamped a massive hand on my shoulder and said, You heard him. Let's go. I raised my hands in mock shock. No need to rough me up. I'm leaving. Jessica stared bullets into her father. Even though she had been angry at me not long before, her anger at her father had now trumped that. You could be a real jerk sometimes, she said, and then stepped into the elevator and let the doors close on Leo Shang. I let Dane lead me back down the hall, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. 2 minutes before, Jessica had wanted me to get out of her sight, and now she was mad at her father because he wanted the exact same thing. I could feel Leo Shang's eyes on me the whole way to the restaurant, but I didn't look back. I returned to my table, grabbed my ski parka, and slipped it on. As I did, though, something occurred to me. My memory lessons were paying off. I had observed something about Leo Shang that was important. He was wearing a button down shirt under his ski jacket. I had been out on the mountain only one day, and I had the opportunity to observe thousands of fellow skiers. Under their jackets, they had worn thermal underwear, or fleeces, or sweaters, or a combination of all three. But not a single one of them wore a button down shirt. Button down shirts were what people wore to business meetings, not to go skiing. Which meant Leo Shang probably hadn't gone helicopter skiing at all. And he had either lied to his daughter about it or she lied to me. Either way, it indicated that he was up to something. See you tomorrow, I said to Dane, trying to appear unfazed by my unsettling encounter with Leo Shang, as though it was perfectly normal to meet a mean, insensitive billionaire who treated me like pond scum and then had his Danish thug evict me from his private hotel. I quickly slipped out the door to the ice skating plaza. Erica was already out on the rink with Mike. To my surprise, she didn't seem to notice me. Normally, Erica was so attuned to her surroundings that nothing got past her, but at that moment, her eyes were locked on Mike's, and his were locked on hers. Each had a dreamy smile on their face, and face that I found almost as disturbing as the disdainful glare Leo Shang had given me. I hoped it was all part of her act, but worried that it wasn't. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to deal with Mike and Erica. I hurried through the plaza, heading back to the ski house. I had to talk to Cyrus Hale. Well, that was a strange encounter over hot chocolate. I feel bad for Ben. Erica's staring all dreamy-eyed at Mike, and Jessica kicked him out. Then he met Leo Shang, and Leo Shang said, Yeah, you're out of here. But that was an interesting hint that he saw. You definitely don't wear a button-up shirt under a ski parka if you're going to go skiing. It's cold outside, and you need to wear layers. You don't wear button-up shirts that are like business shirts that you wear skiing. You don't want to ruin your shirt. All right. Chapter 10, Analysis. Cyrus, Alexander, and all my fellow students weren't at the hotel, but Zoe had left a note in a simple MSK code that I could easily translate. It informed me that they were at the restaurant down the street. The Jackalope Cantina, being on the wrong side of the highway for most of Vale, wasn't designed in the same fake Tarlinian style as the rest of the town. And it didn't have a random umlaut in its name either. Instead, it was the standard blocky strip mall restaurant on the outside, with a cheesy Western theme on the inside. The walls were lined with neon beer signs and the mounted heads of the local wildlife. Deer, elk, peccaries, and a lot of jackalopes. Jackalopes were fake animals, stuffed rabbits with antlers grafted to their heads. Apparently, some sort of joke cooked up by Rocky Mountain taxidermists. I found everyone in a private back room where they could eat and talk without worrying about anyone spotting them or overhearing them. The kids, including Hank, were all seated at one table, scarfing down burgers and fries. Cyrus and Alexander were at the next table over. Even though it seemed like a breach of protocol, I sat with the adults, wanting to lay out my case against Leo Shang as quickly as possible. Cyrus barely looked up from his food, but Alexander welcomed me heartily. "Hello, Ben. How did things go with Jessica today?" "All right," I said, not wanting to admit that they'd actually really been disastrous. But then Leo Shang showed up and ran me off. Now Cyrus looked up. "You interacted with Shang?" "Yes," I said, and quickly filled them in on the entire encounter, proudly explaining how I deducted Leo hadn't really gone helicopter skiing that day. Unfortunately, Cyrus wasn't as impressed by it as I had hoped. "I saw him get out of that helicopter," he told me. "But you didn't see him actually ski, right?" I countered. "Because you didn't have your own helicopter to follow him. This is proof that he was doing something else." "A button-down shirt isn't proof," Cyrus said dismissively. "You're making wild speculations based upon scant evidence." "It's not a wild speculation, Dad," Alexander argued on my behalf. "There's sound reasoning behind it. No one likes a nice, well-tailored button-down shirt more than I do, and even I wouldn't ski in one." "What's to say Shang skied in it at all? He could have easily changed clothes after he landed." Cyrus sank his teeth into a double bacon cheeseburger. He was very old-fashioned when it came to food. He never had a meal with him that didn't involve red meat. His burger was so rare, I was afraid it might walk off of his plate. Alexander, on the other hand, wasn't used to places that had like the Jackalope Cantina. His taste ran towards expensive five-star restaurants, and he made the mistake of ordering as though he were in one: French onion soup, braised salmon, and oysters, even though they were thousands of miles from the nearest ocean. The food obviously didn't look anything like he had hoped. The oysters had actually been deep fried, the salmon was greenish, and the cheese on top of the soup was congealed into a dairy equivalent of a hockey puck. Ugh, sounds delightful. Alexander was poking at it gingerly with a fork, as though afraid of it. "Would you bring a button-down shirt to change into right after skiing?" I asked Cyrus. "You wouldn't just wait until you got back to the hotel?" "We're not talking about what I'd do," Cyrus pointed out. "We're talking about what Leo Shang might do. After all, we know Shang's the kind of guy who wears button-downs every chance he gets. Maybe he even went skiing in one today." "I doubt that," I said. "But you can't prove it's not true," Cyrus countered. "Meanwhile, here's what I know to be facts, because I observed them myself. 1. Leo Shang had his men drive him to the helipad of the Epic Hilo Skiing Company this morning. 2. Leo Shang brought his skis with him and loaded them into the helicopter. 3. The helicopter remained in the backcountry ski area all day. How can you be so sure if you couldn't follow him? I asked. Cyrus sighed as though he was growing annoyed with me. I had the agency track the helicopter via GPS. Its pattern of movement was consistent with helicopter skiing. It landed on top of mountains for several long stretches, which is exactly how a ski copter would set down to allow its clients to ski. It even ranged out of the designated backcountry ski area in the White River National Forest. No side trips over to the North American Aerospace Defense Command or the Cheyenne Mountain Complex or any of the other strategic military facilities in Colorado. The kids' table perked up at the mention of this. You think that's what Golden Fist might be? Chip asked. Leo Shang's really targeting one of those places? I thought that's what Golden Fist might be, Cyrus corrected. I don't anymore, as he didn't go anywhere near any of those places. They're all at least 60 miles from where he was. Well, maybe he's doing reconnaissance on something else, I suggested. Yeah, snow, Cyrus grumped, and rocks and trees. That's all there is to see back where he was today. If the CIA learns he's only skiing, they're going to think the operation's a bleeding snipe hunt. Snipe hunt. What's that? Warren asked. A snipe hunt is agency terminology for a mission which is investigating a plot that doesn't actually exist, Alexander explained hopefully. Sort of like a wild goose chase. There's a very interesting story behind the name. You see, back in the early days of the agency, under Roscoe Hillenkonater, a lot of the first agents were avid hunters. No one wants to hear a damn history lecture, Cyrus snapped, as though even though everyone else probably did. Alexander clamped up and sullenly dug into his deep-fried oysters. I don't think it's a snipe hunt, I said quietly. I've seen Leo Shang twice now. I definitely think he's up to something. Well, your hunch and a penny aren't worth a penny. Cyrus crammed the last of his french fries into his mouth. The point of the operation is to obtain solid evidence, so you better step up your game and get me some. I don't think Jessica knows anything about Golden Fist, I pointed out. Well, we never expected she would. Kids are rarely the brains of the operation, Cyrus told me, in a way that made no secret that he was talking about me, too. The idea here was to never to shake her down. It was to use her to get close to her father and find out what Operation Golden Fist is. So get to work. You've already been on the case a day, and all you've got me is a button-down shirt. He shoved away his empty plate, stood up, grabbed his coat, ready to go. I frowned, frustrated with Cyrus and myself. I was annoyed that he hadn't given my report on Leo Shang more credit. But I also realized that he had a point. I hadn't brought him much, and to make matters worse, I didn't know if I could get any more. Jessica seemed pretty much done with being friends with me. Ben's doing his best, Zoe told Cyrus as he headed for the door. But there was a complication today. Cyrus froze in his tracks and wheeled on her. What kind of complication? I desperately signaled Zoe to be quiet. I knew she was only trying to help, but I also knew Cyrus much better than she did. Telling him about Mike's presence in Fail would only make matters worse. Zoe noticed me and then got the picture. Trying to think on her feet. Jessica Shang is really mean. Very hard to get to know. So? Cyrus asked. She has terrible breath, too, Warren added, trying to be helpful. Like the worst breath ever. It smells like dirty diapers. Cyrus glared at everyone. What's the real complication? He demanded. Ben ran into his best friend from back home while he was with Jessica on the gondola today, Hank reported. Chip told on his brother. Hey, I told you that in confidence. Yeah, that was stupid of you, Hank said, then returned his attention to Cyrus. In addition to pointedly blowing Ben's cover, this kid also attracted Jessica Shang's affection, which has threatened the objective of the mission. Cyrus shifted an angry gaze back to me. This is your friend Mike Berzaninski? I gaped in surprise. You know who Mike is? Of course I know who Mike is, Cyrus snarled. This would be the first time that a friend of yours has compromised one of our missions. How on earth did he end up here? It was a coincidence, I said weakly. There's no such thing, Cyrus informed me. Well, to be honest, that's not true, Alexander put in hopefully. Once, when I was undercover in Istanbul, I ran right into my third grade teacher, Mrs. Jenkins, at a falafel stand. Luckily, I was disguised as a nun, so she didn't recognize me. Shut up, Cyrus ordered. Alexander clammed up again and resumed eating his oysters. You don't need to worry about Mike Berzaninski, Jawa told Cyrus. We developed a plan to distract him so that he won't be a problem anymore. Cyrus took a step back, growing even more concerned, putting things together before we could explain them. Where's my granddaughter? He demanded. I'm right here, Erica said. We all spun around to find her leaning against a stuffed grizzly bear nearby. Once again, she managed to arrive without anyone noticing. Even Cyrus seemed surprised to see her there. You were the distraction? Cyrus asked. Yes, Erica answered. And you were successful? Cyrus added. Mike Berzaninski is no longer going to be an issue where Jessica Shang is concerned. He has set his sights on someone else. Erica slipped past her father, took a seat at the junior spies table, and began perusing the menu. But he could still blow Ben's cover, Cyrus asked. Yes, that's still an issue, Erica said, but I have it under control. He's skiing with his family during the day. In the afternoons, I can divert him so he doesn't go anywhere near Jessica. How are you going to divert him? Alexander asked suspiciously, more like a worried father than a spy. I'm going to invite him to be lots of places where Jessica is not. Erica replied calmly and then asked her father, How's the French onion soup? Inedible, Alexander replied. I figured as much, Erica sighed. I don't like this, Cyrus muttered. I don't like it at all. Erica, you're supposed to be Ben's handler on this affirmation, not running around with some hoodlum. First of all, Erica said, my ability to handle Ben hasn't been compromised. And second, not every teenage boy is a hoodlum. Mike is not so bad. Zoe dropped her fork and her mashed potatoes in shock. Oh my gosh, she gasped. You like him? Erica recoiled as though Zoe had just electrocuted her. I do not. You just said he's not so bad, Zoe informed her. That's the nicest thing I've ever heard you say about a boy. Or anyone, in fact. It's the nicest thing I've ever heard you say. Period. Erica, Alexander said, intrigued. If this fellow is special to you, don't you think I ought to meet him? No, Erica gasped, horrified. I do not like him. Any interest I've shown in him is solely acting, and once this mission is over, I have no interest in ever seeing him again. You sure sound like you like him, Chip taunted. Well, I don't, Erica snapped. Not one bit. This is about the most emotionally worked up of any of us had ever seen Erica, which only seemed to confirm that she really did like Mike. Normally, I would have loved to see Erica unsettled like this, especially when she was being subjected to almost the exact same grilling she had given me about Jessica Shang the day before. But this was different because I liked Erica. The last thing I needed was her developing a crush on someone else, especially my best friend. Everyone else seemed just as unconvinced by Erica's arguments, but for the moment they all let it slide. Cyrus returned his harsh gaze on me. Seems my granddaughter is really putting herself out to fix this trouble you caused. I had no idea Mike was going to be here, I reiterated. Cyrus snorted disapprovingly. Point is, she's get it going way out on a limb to get this mission back on track. Now, are you prepared to do your part? Can you get to Leo Shang? I hesitated before answering. The truth was, I felt I had almost no chance of getting to Leo Shang. The man was surrounded by bodyguards trained to kill, and I'd be lucky if Jessica ever talked to me again. But then I thought about my encounter with Leo Shang that day. Even though Cyrus had said my hunch wasn't worth anything, I knew I was right. The man was up to something. Whatever Operation Golden Fist was, it wasn't good. And if I was the CIA's only route to finding out what was going on, then I couldn't back down. Yes, it would be dangerous. Yes, it would be scary. And yes, it would force Erica to flirt with Mike even more. But there was a job to be done, and I was determined to figure out a way to do it. Excuse me. So I looked Cyrus right in the eye and said, yes, I can get to Leo Shang. Cyrus held my gaze for a long time, as though trying to determine whether to believe me and whether I believed myself. All right, he said finally. We'll move ahead. But if this mission goes to pot, you're the one who will take the fall for this. And with that, he slipped into his parka and headed out into the cold, stifling all of us with the check. I hope you're not saying you can get to Leo just to please my father, Alexander said to me quietly. You can never please him. Trust me. I've spent my whole life trying. There was a sadness in Alexander's eyes as he said this. I suddenly had a revelation about him. The man had built his reputation on hundreds of lies about how successful he was, about how successful his missions had been. I had always assumed he had done this to further his career, but now I wondered if it all simply had been a desperate attempt to impress his father. I'm not sucking, Iris, I said. I can do this. Well, you're going to have to do it fast, Erica told me. There's only 3 days left till Golden Fist goes down. Erica and Mike sitting in a tree, someone at the other table sang under his breath. Kissin. Erica suddenly lunged out of her chair, grabbing Warren by the hand and slamming him face first into the remnants of his dinner. Say one more letter, she growled, and I will gut you with a steak knife. It wasn't me, Warren whined. It was Chip. I don't care if it was the Queen of England, Erica warned us all. I am not interested in Mike Brzezinski, and the next person who makes a joke about it ends up in the hospital. She released Warren, who collapsed back into his chair, gasping for breath, pulling french fries out of his nostrils. Erica calmly returned her attention to me, as though she hadn't done anything out of the ordinary. So how did things go with Jessica after I got Mike out of there? We have some problems, I reported. Then looked at Zoe. She didn't get vulnerable after Mike left like you said she would. She didn't? Zoe asked. No, I replied. Instead, she got angry. Really angry. And then she told me to leave. Oh boy, Zoe said. I was hoping that wouldn't happen. You mean you knew it might? Erica snapped at her. You didn't? Zoe shot back. You're a teenage girl. You never had your emotions get all out of whack? No, Erica said, without any emotion at all. Well, it happens to normal people sometimes, Zoe replied. Normal people aren't robots. They have feelings, and I can't predict every possible one of them. So I went with what I thought would be the most probable outcome. Sadly, that wasn't the case, I said. Jessica went totally cold on me. So now I have to figure out a way to get her interested in me again. Luckily for you, you've come to the right place, Alexander said suavely. When it comes to equipping a woman's interest, I'm your expert. Dad, please don't say things like that in front of me, Erica said, looking nauseated. I'm going to lose my appetite. Now then, Alexander went on, oblivious to his daughter. The best way to win over a woman is with good manners and charm. You invite her out to a delicious meal, then order something special, like a nice bottle of champagne. I'm only 13, I pointed out. Or Belga caviar, Alexander went on. That's $140 an ounce, Jawa told him. Or perhaps some oysters, Alexander continued, indicating the ones on his plate. Normally you'd want them raw, of course. I prefer Kamuntos myself. They just have the hint of brininess of a certain Genoese koi, but these local ones are surprisingly tasty. Erica cocked an eyebrow at him. You ordered the Rocky Mountain oysters? Yes, they're quite flavorful, although they don't taste much like oysters. That's because they're bull testicles, Erica told him. Don't be ridiculous, Alexander chided. They wouldn't make something like that at a restaurant like this. Erica handed him the menu and pointed to the small print he had overlooked that indicated exactly what Rocky Mountain oysters were. Oh dear, asked. He promptly turned green and ran out the door and threw up in the parking lot. Hank slid into the seat next to me and put an arm around my shoulder. Don't listen to Alexander. When it comes to women, he's way too old school. But me, I'm a regular Casanova. You have any questions about chicks? I can answer them. Chip burst out into laughter. You? You don't know anything about women. That's why Claire dumped you. She didn't dump me, Hank retorted. I dumped her. Then why did you spend the next 3 days crying about it? Chip asked, and then he performed an overblown imitation of Hank bawling into the telephone. Please take me back, Claire. I am nothing without you. I promise I could change. Stop it, Hank warned. Chip didn't. Instead, he amped up his imitation even more. You can't dump your little hanky wanky. I love you. That does it. Hank launched himself at Chip, knocking him out of his chair. They proceeded to roll around on the floor of the restaurant, trying to pound each other. Jawa gingerly stepped over them and took the chair Hank had just vacated. I might be of service where women are concerned, he said. I've read Agent Percival Perry's Manual of Seducing Women in the Field 100 times. Agent Perry was a hack, Erica said coldly. He was? Jawa asked. Yes, Erica replied. He was actually terrible with women in the field. They stopped using his manual 30 years ago. So the Red Rose Rendezvous ruse? Jawa began. Never works, Erica finished. All it will get you is a slap in the face and a knee to the crotch. Oh, Jawa said, turning red. Apparently I may not be of service after all. Well, I know all about women, Warren said, grinning at Zoe shyly. If you want to win a girl over, the first thing you do is slip up behind her and give her a nice, soothing massage. He tried this on Zoe, digging his fingers into her shirt. Ouch! Zoe screamed. Stop that, you moron! Warren cringed. But it's shiatsu. It's painful, Zoe snapped, and disgusting. Your hands are all clammy. Ugh, I need to go home and shower now. Warren wilted and sat back down. Chip and Hank rolled past us, still trying to clobber each other. Erica sighed. Looks like we're pretty screwed where relationship advice is concerned. As she said this, however, I had a flash of insight. Maybe things weren't quite as bad as Erica had thought. When it came to women, I knew exactly who to turn to for help. Well, I think I know who Ben is going to go to for advice. You guys could probably work that out too. If you guys have any predictions, you can put them in the comments of the video, or you can have your parents message me on Dojo and I will read your guys' predictions there. I would love to hear about them. I'd love to have a discussion with you guys about it, so we could have a discussion through those messages if you'd like. I am going to try to stream kind of starting between 11 and 12 o'clock time this week. that seems like that'll work out with my schedule. At least as of right now, it might change. If the Haviland team needs to meet at that time, I'll let you know that I'll have to push back our time. But otherwise, I think I'm going to stick to that time unless I have something come up in my schedule. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, you guys, of course, can message me on our class dojo, as I check that every day. Or you can drop me a line at my email, jonathan.gibbons@lisd.us. I check those every day. And like I said, as soon as distance learning plan is in place, I will share that with you families. And hopefully we will be getting going with that in the coming weeks. Again, your patience will be very much appreciated as we figure this out, as it's going to look different from school to school. We might be doing something that's completely different than what the local districts are doing, or we might look at what the local districts are doing and kind of try to replicate that same thing at Lower Haviland. I'm not sure as to yet because I haven't discussed it with the team yet. We all have our ideas of what we would like to try to do, and it's just kind of figuring out what's going to fit best for our current student population. Those parent tech at home surveys will play a very key role to kind of help us make those decisions. So if you haven't shared those results with us yet, you can email those responses to me at my email, or you can message me on Dojo with a response to those tech questions. And of course, you could call Miss Feather, as I know Miss Feather tried reaching out, and I know most of you guys have submitted those. So thank you very much for doing that. And if you haven't done so, please get those submissions in as soon as possible. And Ms. Feather and I will be able to use that when we meet with the rest of the Haviland team, and we can figure out how to best address the education needs of our students based on what they have available to them. So I'm going to sign off now. I enjoyed being on today. I hope you guys did too. Hopefully you guys are continuing to stay safe and are staying healthy. Hopefully you guys get an opportunity to stay outside for a little bit. That sun is out. It looks nice outside. I'm hoping to go for a walk here in a little bit to kind of help get my movement in, because walks always help clear the head. So this is Mr. G signing off. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.